everybody, it's Julia Laird with Senior Susie Stamps, and today is going to be a ScanNCut video. I have started swatching all my inks. After attending via the internet the Getting Organized workshop, or summit I guess it was, recently, I decided that I would go back and restart my ink swatching project that I had tried to do several years ago. I got these little numbers. I've had them for several years. If I can find a link for these, I'll leave it below. I got some magnets, and these are 8/10 of an inch square, and there's 70 in the pack. I got 2 packs. They are adhesive on one side, and I will link these magnets down below. I got the idea from Ardith in her use of swatching, but the reason this is a ScanNCut video today is I want to show you how to cut in mass these little squares that exactly fit these little tiles. Let me first of all start by telling you a little bit about my swatching system, and it has to be somewhat expandable for whenever I add additional ink. Before we go today, I'll show you my ink storage so you'll have a concept of what we're looking at, because this is going to take some time, but I thought I would share the process with you today. This is an old stamp pad called Elegant Eggplant. Those of you who've been around this channel for a while know that I buy a lot of things used. It doesn't bother me at all. And I happen to have been able to find an Elegant Eggplant refill and pen to go with that, which is really nice. But if I hadn't, then my next thing to do would be to find a refill that very closely went with this stamp pad. So I would just pull this swatch off, throw it away, rename it with whatever the new ink was, and put a new swatch on and keep moving on. As long as the ink pad is usable. In my studio, I'm not that involved with keeping up with the current bunch of colors and what have you. What's important to me is having a lot of colors to choose from. So what I have done on this one, for example, this little swatch has the number 35 on it. I have cut the little squares in mass, as I said before, and I stamped 2 of them. One of them goes on the ink pad, one of them goes on my swatch board, which is magnetized. And then I have a number 35 which matches the number there, and these all have the same number on them. And then when I file them in my ink storage, they're easy to find, and I can pull the ink and anything with it based on the number on the back of this ink swatch once I decide which color it is that I want. So let's start by me moving all this stuff out of the way and look at the ScanNCut, because I want to show you how to cut so that it'll exactly fit these magnets, or whatever magnet you might choose, or size swatch you might choose to use. So let me get that set up and I'll be right back. Now I've moved my ScanNCut machine. Now I have a CM350 machine, and let's see if we can see this when it comes on. I believe we can. I'm going to hit home. The carriage and mat will move. I'll hit OK. Now I'm going to go to pattern, and then I'm going to choose my basic shapes of a square. Oh, and first of all, what I want to do is go into this little tool here and change my cut area to 8.5 by 11, a little shy of that. And you just do that by marking it however you want to, either this way a little bit or that way a little bit. And I just get it kind of close and then hit OK. Otherwise it'll try to do a 12 by 12 or whatever you have left in there, and I want to use an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper to do this. I'm going to use basic cardstock, and then hit OK. So now I have the basic square, which is BAA001, and I'm going to adjust this down to the 0.8 inches size, and I'm just going to hold my minus sign down until I get down to the 8/10 of an inch mark. There we go. And then I'm going to increase the number so I can cut a bunch of them at the same time. The last time I cut, I had 70, and I had some room left on the page, so I'm going to try to do 90 this time. And hit set. And there we go. So I'm going to load a piece of paper and do the cut, and I'll hit OK. And then I'll be right back. I'm going to load my page here, and then I'm going to have to turn my machine because I don't have enough outtake back behind on this desk. Now I'm going to hit cut and start, and I'll see you in about 3 minutes. Okay, so my cut has finished. I'm going to hit OK. And I don't want to save this because it's just easy to fix it again if I need it. So I'm going to hit home. I'll hit OK to delete the pattern, and I'll eject my mat. Now I'm going to turn my machine off and get it out of the way. So now I hope you can see that I have 90 lovely swatches here that have been machine cut for me. See, the way my personality is, cutting something like that to 8/10 of an inch in the quantity that I need for 2 for each ink, that would drive me crazy. I don't do that kind of tedious stuff well. And so having my ScanNCut with the ability to do this is monumental for me in being able to do a complete swatch of all of my inks. So what I will do then is I'll use a piece of scratch paper. I just picked a small stamp, and it happens to be a heart. And I'll pull 2 swatch pieces out. I've already numbered my ink pad, and I've numbered the back of my magnet. And you'll notice on these that I'm not writing the name. I find that tedious. It doesn't matter to me what the name is. What I'm interested in is the color of the ink. So I may get my head in the way here. I'm sorry if I do. Then I need to get a baby wipe and wipe my stamp off. And I'm really ready then to mount this up both on the front of my stamp pad and on the back of my magnetic piece here. These are nice and sticky, but you can peel them off if you don't get started just exactly right, and I have had to peel several of them back just because they weren't going exactly the way I wanted them to. But if they're close, for me, that's really good enough for what I'm working on. So I'll put this piece on the front of my ink pad with just a little piece of packing tape. And as I said then, because I don't have an ink refill on Midnight Muse, if I need to get some other color of ink to go on that in future, then I'll just pull this off and change the name with my label maker, and I'm good to go. And here's my swatch. So now let me pick the camera phone up and we'll move around. I'll show you where these both go to live. So now my ink lives over here with the rest of the ink on the wall. And what I have done is, in that first case, there on the left. It runs through number 45. And so when I pick up over here, I'm going to leave myself a little number room, and I'm going to start with 50, and that's what I've got on this one here. But now my ink swatches are going to go over here on the back side of my work table. I don't have any good place to put a magnetic piece in my studio, so I did have a piece of angled aluminum, and then I got some metallic tape here that I put down on top of that, and you can see the swatches what I've started over here. They're out of the sun, which means they'll be as true to color as I possibly can get them. And this is where they'll live. And then when I want to pull some swatches to study, I just have to come over here and scoot my TV out of the way and pull whatever colors I want off of this little magnetic strip and use them. And you can see some of the inks are not fully saturated. It's because those ink pads are not fully saturated ink pads. You know, they're getting old, and maybe I need to think about replacing them. And some of the colors are really close, which is fine with me. So that's just a day in the life of the studio today. I'm working on swatching as I have time, and this is where I keep the majority of my inks against the wall over here. I have one more of these ink storage containers on order that will hold the little bit of overflow that I've. So I hope this has given you an idea for ink swatching today. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon.